Yes, buckle your seatbelt.
Hello all, Rambling Cook here, back for another Roundtable Reviews. Today it's going to be TNG, The Last Outpost. And as always, my co-host Captain Trek and Vance Major, how are we doing?
I'm great!
Oh my, doing all right here.
I still want whatever he's smoking when we
I
do
know,
this.
I know. Please,
Just
please,
saying.
man. Just,
What are you talking about? We just watched an episode with the Ferengi. Their whips fully extended. How can I not be excited? Woohoo!
That's pretty much a phallic symbol there now. Take that
What?
thought out of my head.
That'll learn you, Cap. All right, so the episode is basically, well, first let's do what we normally do, go around quickly and give our opinions. And we'll start with Vance. What do you think?
The thing I have to do when I watch this episode, when I compare it to the other season 1 episodes of Next Generation, there's a lot of bad the first season of Next Generation. So I look at this episode in context of those other first season episodes, and I do kind of put it higher up on those episodes. This wasn't a great episode by itself, but in context of the other ones, it's not so bad, and it's got a lot of things that I like in it. It's kind of like Batman v Superman version of a Next Generation episode. Like, it's got a lot of things by itself that I'm like, oh, I kind of like that, and oh, I kind of like that too, and oh, I kind of like that. But as a whole, it's like, oh, it's not too good. So, well, we'll delve more into that. Captain Trek, what do you think?
It's okay. I can say this is better than Threshold.
Hey, it's not Code of Honor.
Very true.
It's not Code of Honor, and that's all we need to be happy about.
It's uphill from here.
What
It's
do
uphill
you
from here.
think?
Overall, it was one of those middle of the road episodes. I get a personal kick out of it because Stewart does his overacting in this one. When he's making the threat to the Ferengi, but he gets much better at that as the seasons go on, though.
Yeah.
He gets a couple more rounds at the poker table with Riker, so he learns how to bluff better. But right now, he's no bad poker face.
Well, that was one of the things I liked about this episode a lot. The relationship, like especially at the end, when Riker kind of makes that joke to Picard's like, hey, I kind of want to beam these, Data's finger stuff over to the Ferengi, like it kind of, you start to build that relationship with Riker and Picard, the trust, the friend, I wouldn't say necessarily the friendship, but the kindredship between those two. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and the fact that we actually got to go, see them on an official away mission. I really liked that. The relationship between Geordi and Data, the joking, it really reminded me of like a Kirk Spock, Bones type, moment when they're all kind of clowning on Data because he can't get out of the finger cuffs type deal. That to me is kind of cool. Because up to that point we really hadn't got that into Next Gen, and for a series that was trying to be its own thing, it's like you really needed those type of character moments, and I feel like it really shined in that. And this really, the whole thing of like what exactly is going on. We hadn't really encountered the Ferengi. We had heard about them in Encounter at Farpoint, but this really was kind of like, okay, we finally get to see them, and they weren't really all they were cracked up to be. I kind of wonder what they were thinking with presenting this to us, since these are supposed to be kind of the Next Generation version of the Klingons, as the big bad guys, as these certainly weren't it. But at least they were trying to do something different. Different type of weapons. They weren't phaser type weapons. They were those whips. They're trying to give us something drastically different, and A+ for attempt. Even if the execution was way off.
Yeah, they ended up being the TNG comic relief. They didn't really come into their own until DS9. The Ferengi,
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
But that's because they had Quark.
Agreed.
Well, Quark. Well, the actor who plays Quark was in this episode as the main Ferengi.
Right.
And that's so he got to redeem that race, and with DS9. So it's a credit to him. So I mean, that kind of shows you that it's not the actors that did a bad job. It's the writing that they were given.
The direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cap, what were your initial plunders of this one?
Well, okay, let's see here. Of course, they're going in, gangbusters, going after the Ferengi. Yeah. And I just thought it was that moment that Vance was talking about almost seemed a little forced. With Data with the finger puzzle, number one, the boys just happened to be in there. Don't know how they got into a secured area, but whatever. And why they left it on the table. But sure, the third in command is going to pick this up and just start playing with it because they're in a briefing.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
But see, and I would go even further back to that, where my initial issue with this episode is. And that is, okay, so the main premise of this episode is that the Ferengi have stolen a piece of technology off of an orbital station. Now, the part that makes me go, is it's not a major part. It's not, they didn't steal the prints to the new next Federation starship. So why in the hell is the flagship going after them for this? Of all ships, why is the flagship going after them?
Oh, okay. Because the script said so, Rambling.
I know that, but
okay.
I know that it's just like because quantum, but
yeah.
But in a story sense, right? If you're breaking this down in a story sense, why in the blue hell is Starfleet sending the flagship to track them down?
Well, realistically, I mean, they could have just been the ship in the area, or there could be any number of reasons. It's just like for in the movies, the Enterprise is the only ship in the area, even though there's like
but at least
entire...
they say that.
Yeah, exactly.
In this one, it's like, yeah, we got this great opportunity.
Well,
the flagship. What the? This should have been like something for Starter Captain number 5.
Not necessarily, because think of it this way: you have from a militaristic point of view. I think I misspoke that word. So you have an alien race that you've never encountered before, or only have through rumor. They've stolen a piece of property that belongs to you, and you need to go get this shit back. So you have a couple of ships in the area. You want to send the flagship, not General Captain number 5 or generic Captain number 6. You want to send the best. You want to send overacting Captain Picard, or as Beverly likes to call him, Jean.
Yeah. In this episode only.
Yeah, only. Yeah. Just like Troy calls, Riker Bill in The Naked Now and Never Again. So
it's just for me, the episodes like that, and there are several, where it's like, okay, but why is the Enterprise doing this? Of all the things in the world, why is the Enterprise doing that? So it's a minor thing for me. Like, it's not a major deal breaker, because there's a lot of that throughout TNG where you're just, yeah, but why is the Enterprise doing this? But plot, story, get it. But at the same, it's just a minor Okay, but
Because
give
if
me
they
a
ta-
reason.
Okay, because if we sat there and watched Picard talking to the Admiral, then we couldn't have the finger cuff scene. Come on,
Oh
Ramblin'.
yeah.
And we need that
Oh
finger cuff scene.
no,
That
we
I mean,
don't.
I love seeing Data struggle, and let's forget the fact that he's an android with all these information, but he doesn't have that information in his databank. So, come on.
Oh yes, he
Yeah.
knows all this slang.
Oh yeah, that too.
I didn't even know what that was. I'm like, what is he talking about? Write home about what? Like a pen pal? What? What's he babbling about? Like
That's the old. It ain't nothing much to write home to mama about.
yeah,
Is the
I ain't.
actual line.
Ah, hey, don't correct Data. He'll stick you in a finger cuff.
I'm not that stupid to put my fingers in a finger cuff.
We're not talking about Alexander, but anyhow.
Now, Cap.
What?
But they before Cap gets me on a tirade. All right, so they get trapped. They track them down, and they're right by a planet, and they think the Ferengi are firing on them. Turns out later it's not, but they're trapped, and they can't. They're losing power. They can't fire anything, and they're stuck, and they're losing power, and then Picard does his bluff because he realizes, but it really doesn't state how he realizes.
They were trying to build suspense, and that's the one thing I felt like this episode got right. Like they built up the suspense. You had like almost a third of the episode where it's like, what are these people doing? Even the Ferengi turning around the ship was like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Like I'm on the edge of my seat because I was like eight or 9 years old when I watched this. Like it was cool because it's like, oh my god, these aliens. This is so completely alien. And then they've got like these actual butts on their head, and it's like, what? Like they've got 4 butt cheeks on their heads. Like this is really odd to me. Like what is this? And they're so in your face on that view screen. And again, I don't understand. Like I think it was Geordi or Troy. Like somebody says that they were distorting the view screen.
Yeah.
Well, how? What are you talking about? Like what was distorted? Because nothing.
I think it was just a throwaway line that they never hoped to have to ever answer about.
That has bugged me ever since I was 8 years old. Like, what are you talking about? I really wish they would have answered that because to me, I don't get that.
Yeah,
So
but see,
go ahead.
But for me, I can see your point that they were building suspense. The only problem is they build the suspense and the payoff was a meh.
Well, like when they were talking about the delay of the power usage and absorption. And so Picard goes through this countdown, do all these things, and he takes his freaking time. And rather than telling them to go ahead, okay, transfer power from the shields to the engines and engage.
Yeah.
Okay, which is what he should have done.
Which would have been a line later on in the series.
2, blah, 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 blah. 3, well, that's already taken all the time away. It's like, really?
I think what the problem lies with the story is you had a really good build up, the tension, the stress, all the stuff. Even when you finally meet the Ferengi, okay, that kind of works. I think what really falls flat is you get to the planet, and even that works. But then you finally meet the Ferengi, and there's these fucking goofballs, and you're like, this is the threat, and that's what's disappointing. It's kind of like you're like, you hear a rumor in school, and you're like, oh shit, Kyle's gonna meet Sammy for a fight in the schoolyard. Oh my god, I can't believe this is gonna be epic. And you wait all day, and you finally get to the schoolyard, and it's these 2 little kids that are duking it, and you're like, really? And it's like, what? Bam! And it goes down for the count, and you're like, I've been waiting all day for that? Really? Oh man! And you go back, and you're like, this shit sucks.
It's kind of like having this big bad enemy, and all of a sudden seeing Bozo the Clown.
Yeah, basically.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And I mean, they really didn't even the the Ferengi back talk to humans, like human and stuff like that. And the shock at Tasha Yar being, a woman with a gun, and not only that, but clothed.
At least that they kept consistent.
Well,
I
it
will
was
give them that.
consistent, but I don't know. I guess the delivery just sucked. Just the
Well,
way that
they played it for comedic value, and the thing
Yeah.
about it is like it's like you have Adam West meets Michael Keaton Batman. Who's going to win in that fight? Michael Keaton's going to knock the shit out of Adam West, and boom, you're going to see that big Pam on the fucking view screen and be
yeah.
like, it's out. And that's where we're at here. It's like, look, if you had them actually look at Tasha Yar and be repulsed and be like, be like how it was during, have the Ferengi portrayed as the people in Mad Max and be actual scavengers and people who have these deadly weapons. And that's because I'm sorry, but those whips were really cool.
Oh yes,
Because again, every other enemy has nothing but phasers or phaser type weapons and phase pistol, but the Ferengi had whips, and it's like, dude, nobody has stuff like that. That's cool. And I like the line that they put in there that said the Ferengi have equivalent technology, not the same type of technology, but they're advanced in other areas where we're advanced in other areas, but it's the equivalent, but it's not the same. And I like that, because it's like they their whips may be the equivalent to phasers, but it's not phasers, and I like that. So it's like you could have had them act like, give the impression that they're like from the Mad Max world, and they could have been very threatening, like the Klingons are. When you see a Klingon, you're like, oh, I'm scared shitless. Ferengi could have been the same way, but you had them act like Captain Trek said, Bozo the Clown. And that's where it fell flat, because it's like, and especially when the Ferengi was like, oh, I gave them the answer. Like, come on, get a life, dude.
Yeah,
come on,
or
really?
Oh, so you've heard of phasers? Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
No, they've never heard of a phase weapon. Honest.
Yeah, to me that was, it's you had the Ferengi, and in that moment I feel like you had them built up in Encounter at Farpoint as a legitimate threat. You had you finally see them, and then in that 10 or 15 minutes that they were actually on screen on that planet, you killed any hope for having your big bad for season 1. They kind of tried to redo a little bit more of that in the episode The Battle, but I think any hope for having them be an actual legitimate threat was gone, because it's like, how do you write for the Ferengi?
Yeah,
and
this did them no favors, none whatsoever.
No.
So they end up meeting the godlike creature that was on the planet, who can turn from vapor to human form. Anyway, so he brings up the challenge, which is just repeating something that conveniently Riker and Picard had been talking about earlier in the episode. So of course Riker knows the answer to it, because him and Picard were talking about it earlier. Plot armor up the arse. And so he wins the respect of the alien, and they talk, and should I save the... Now, here's the problem I have with that whole scenario. On the Enterprise, when he releases the Enterprise, and everybody starts coming to, because the power comes, they were pretty much dead. As Crusher says, not a moment too soon. Well, there's at least like 20 minutes later before he releases the Ferengi. Is there anybody left alive on that ship? Just in.
Well, and weren't the Ferengi like weren't they sucked in the energy vortex first?
Yeah.
So haven't they been in that vortex longer, and before the Enterprise? So technically they were there first, and they were past the Enterprise, because the Enterprise got the energy back. So, I mean, yeah. Again, don't think about it too much.
yeah. Because
Turn your brain off.
Wait a minute. Shouldn't they be Ferengi popsicles by now? What do you think, Cap?
Yeah, Ferengi popsicles. Yeah, they should have been dead, but hey, plot.
Yeah, plot. So basically, as Vance said, the episode ends with Riker saying, "Well, we should send over a couple of these, a box of these finger traps for, as a thank you." And of course, Picard says one of his beginning "make it so," which is his order for everything. Make it so from here on out. It's always make it so or engage. These words weren't really as iconic as they are now then, but it's one of our first, make it so. And yeah, so yay.
Why did Geordi have one in his hand at his bridge station with his fingers in it?
Because they wanted the one last haha.
That was just dumb.
So Data could hit the button.
See, I don't think this. This is just my thoughts. I don't think this episode was written for adults. I think this episode was really written for kids.
Yeah, basically.
Because you have a lot of comedic moments in there. And again, I think this, and the first season, it has, especially Next Generation, was in the first season was a show that really didn't know what it wanted to be. Because I forget which episode it was where you've got those blonde people that are half naked running around that all they do is run around everywhere, and I'm like, whoa, what? Am I allowed to even watch this, Mom? Because because they're like half naked. I'm like, how's this not allowed on TV? I felt like I was watching softcore porn. Now it's okay because it's like shit. We're all watching Game of Thrones and fucking Dexter and everything. And titties are popping out Klingon style everywhere. On Discovery. But
they're adding
you get
parts.
Right, but you had half naked bad perm people on the planet there, and it's like you're watching the first season of Next Gen. You're like, who is this show directed toward? And I feel like this episode, like half of it was directed toward classic sci-fi people for Trek, and then the other half was written toward, okay, this is for the kids, because I do not believe that the same people that wrote the Mystery in Space, let's find out who the Ferengi are, wrote the planet, these are the Waka Waka Waka, here's the Ferengi. I don't believe that happened. Because that joke does not feel like it fits, although I have no problem with it because I'm like, it's kind of charming. I like it. Just like I don't believe the same guy who, had Spock in the cage is the same guy who wrote Spock, all throughout the whole series. Like, it's not the same Spock. There's a drastic difference, So to me, this episode felt very jarring. It's jarringly different, those aspects. But again, I find it just as charming. So just my thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've pretty much covered this episode. And, it wasn't that, it was kind of meh-ish. So, Vance, what's your grade on it?
Captain Trek, you go. I need to seriously think about this. So
honestly, I'm gonna say 5. Quite honestly, not bored, not as thought out and developed as other episodes. Some bad writing. 5.
Fair enough. Vance?
I'd have to say probably, given the fact that we're still season 1, if this was season 2, I'd give it a lower score. But again, a lot of the early season 1, I'm going to be a little bit more forgiving. So I'd have to say probably a 7. So
I knew he was going to do that.
No,
I'm
if it's,
sorry.
if
We're gonna. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna expose the truth. I wrote that in private chat.
Did you?
Yes. If you look over in private chat, I wrote 7. I sent it right before you said the number.
I'm very predictable. I do like it's how I feel.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I'm gonna be the mean evil Grinch again. Oh boy, I'm gonna go with a 4. It was, that they're starting to find their feet in certain aspects, and in other aspects they're not. And thankfully, this show gets so much better later. But it was better than the last one we watched, so that's a bonus. And yeah, I mean, other than them completely effing up the Ferengi that I don't think they actually recover from until DS9. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of redemption that when Picard is going up against that Daemon, but other than that,
I think for me this was the first one, and I think this is the reason why I kind of look fondly at this episode, even though I know it's a bad one. This is the first time that the crew actually feels like a crew. Because in Counter at Farpoint, everybody's still kind of getting in position and everything. Naked now, everyone's drunk and it's not right. Code of Honor is just an abomination and it's stupid. And this is the first time where, even though the situation's kind of stupid and it's, we get a bad race, like this is the first time where it's like we actually get a feel for Picard and Riker. We actually get a feel for Geordi and Data. We actually get to see Worf do something besides just stand there useless at the science station in the back. We actually get a feel for Yar being security. We actually get a feel for an away mission. So like the crew is actually being the crew. And I think that's probably why I like it so much, even though it's not really a great episode, But anyway, continue with what you were saying.
Yeah. So I mean, another thing I like about this episode, one of the few things I like, is we get our first Worf line. If you're going to use combat, you come after me. He kind of did his, beginning phase of that, where he usually, says that and then gets his ass kicked.
Gets beat up,
which is TNG trope number 405. But this time they saved the ass kicking.
Well, and also don't forget the trope of getting shut down every time he has a recommendation for something. Yes. When he has a suggestion.
That's 404.
Yeah.
Subsection C.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bloody poor Worf got the shaft in this. But anyway, so I want to thank you both for coming on again. It's been great. And onward and upward. And until next time, take her easy, folks.